Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you've spent any time at all around modern cloud development, you've probably heard a term that sounds, well, a bit like magic: serverless. Today, we're breaking down one of the most powerful and, frankly, one of the most misunderstood ideas in application development: serverless architecture. If you're looking to build scalable, event-driven applications, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to look closely at what this paradigm actually is, and maybe even more importantly, what it isn't. Okay, let's just bust the biggest misconception right out of the gate. Serverless does not mean there are no servers. There are absolutely servers running somewhere in a massive, freezing cold data center. The distinction is just that you aren't managing them directly. The cloud platform handles the provisioning, the scaling, the runtime management, and all that underlying operational burden for you. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The serverless myth. 2. Traditional versus serverless. 3. Event-driven architecture. 4. The trade-offs. And 5. Serverless in action. Let's jump right in. Section 1. The serverless myth. So the absolutely crucial point here is that while the cloud platform handles the heavy lifting of infrastructure, you are not off the hook, not by a long shot. You're still completely responsible for writing clean code, defining the precise triggers for that code, configuring permissions, and connecting managed services. Serverless removes server management, but it absolutely does not remove your architecture responsibility. Honestly, if you design a bad system, it's just going to fail faster. Now, the most common flavor of this serverless computing is function as a service, or FaaS for short. Think AWS Lambda or Azure Functions. Instead of running one massive monolithic backend server 24/7, you build applications as tiny, stateless functions. These little units of code just sit there, totally idle, until a specific event wakes them up. They do their job, and then they spin right back down. Section 2. Traditional versus serverless. There's a massive economic and operational shift happening here. With a traditional server, you have to pay for provisioned infrastructure. That application stays running, listening for requests, and eating up CPU and memory, regardless of whether your traffic is massive or practically non-existent. But with the serverless function model, it operates purely on event-triggered execution and automatic scaling. You completely transition from paying for idle time to strictly paying per use. And that brings us to, without a doubt, the most beautiful number in cloud computing: 0. If your application traffic is unpredictable and suddenly you have 0 queue messages to process or 0 API requests coming in, your compute cost for that exact period drops to exactly $0. That is the true economic power of scaling to 0. Section 3. Event-driven architecture. This is really the engine of serverless. These applications don't just run in a vacuum. They need an event to spark them to life. In this model, services become incredibly loosely coupled. An event simply happens. Maybe a user registers, a file gets uploaded, or a payment is completed. And a specific function instantly reacts to it to send an email, generate a thumbnail, or activate an enrollment. The system producing the event doesn't need to know a single thing about the downstream workflow. And because of this, you can orchestrate really complex multi-step processes incredibly efficiently. Take a learning platform, for example. A course-completed event triggers a step-by-step workflow. It validates eligibility, generates a PDF certificate, and then updates a corporate reporting database. By using workflow services, you manage all these state transitions perfectly without forcing one single function to become a massive, fragile application. Section 4. The trade-offs. Serverless is amazing, but it isn't magic. What happens when the magic fails? Because if we treat serverless like a silver bullet, we're going to run into immediate operational roadblocks that can entirely cripple an application. You can't just take a traditional app, slice it into 100 functions, and expect it to run flawlessly. Think about the architectural burdens you inherit. You've got strict execution timeouts, meaning long-running legacy processes will just flat out fail. You face distributed observability nightmares. I mean, tracking an error across a dozen loosely coupled functions, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. You have vendor lock-in risks and cost surprises. Imagine a function scaling automatically and running 1,000,000 times against a really inefficient database. Your usage-based bill is going to spike dramatically. Let's zoom in on the most discussed challenge: the cold start. It's kind of like starting a car in freezing weather. The cloud provider has to allocate runtime, which is about a quarter of the delay, and load your code package, taking up another 35% of the time. Add in initializing dependencies and creating database connections, and you've got noticeable latency before the engine actually runs.
Because of the spin-up time, serverless can be a pretty risky choice for extremely low-latency user-facing APIs. Furthermore, because these functions can be frozen, terminated, or replaced by the cloud provider at literally any second, they must be totally stateless. Serverless doesn't just eliminate state, it forces you to intentionally push all that long-term state out of your application code and into managed services like databases, object storage, or event queues. Section 5. Serverless in action.
Let's look at a real-world architecture to navigate those trade-offs. This workflow shows exactly how you compose managed services alongside tiny functions to handle bursty workloads. An image gets uploaded to object storage. Boom, that storage event natively triggers a tiny serverless function. The function generates a thumbnail, pushes the metadata into a managed serverless database like DynamoDB, and pings a notification service. It's effortless, scalable background processing that costs absolutely nothing when no one is uploading images. But, and this is absolutely vital, security and observability are paramount here. You cannot trust events blindly. If one function handles payment webhooks, it must verify the signature. You absolutely have to implement least privilege permissions. Think about it. If you blindly hand every single function global admin access to your database, and just one of them gets compromised, your blast radius is massive. Also, you need to be scanning those uploads for viruses and keeping a close eye on your dead letter queues. At the end of the day, good architecture is all about choosing the right compute model for the workload. Serverless is a brilliant fit for payment webhooks, scheduled jobs, image processing, and bursty AI queues. But for extremely low latency APIs, long-running legacy processes, or constant high-volume traffic, forcing that into a serverless function is just a poor fit. Containers or traditional servers might be much cheaper and much faster. Which brings us right back to our core thesis from the source material. While the operational headache of patching and scaling servers is completely gone, your responsibility as an engineer has honestly never been higher. You're now entirely responsible for idempotent design, least privileged security, careful workflow orchestration, and strict cost monitoring. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to apply to your own architecture. Are you just forcing every single workload into a function to follow a tech trend? Or are you using serverless strictly where event-driven, bursty execution creates tangible business value? Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and keep exploring the limits of your cloud architecture.